Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Now we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 21st of January 2019, and the news that would be covered today is given on the screen, and the timestamp for the same is given in the description and the comment section given below. And so now with this, let us start with the first article. Now we have taken the lead editorial from the editorial page on page 8. Now what this article talks about is the recent resignation given by Shah Faisal, who is an IAS officer posted in Jammu and Kashmir, and also the topper of the 2010 Civil Services examination. And within that context, the author talks about the current relevance of civil services in the Indian society. Now you should see this article from the perspective of GS Paper 2 within the section Governance and within the subsection Role of Civil Services in a Democracy. So now let us understand this article further in depth. Now what this article talks about is that there is a recent trend of civil servants leaving their job as IAS or IPS officers. Now according to the author, this trend of civil servants leaving their job is because civil servants such as IAS officer feel they are not being able to make any effective difference within the Indian society. And thereby this demonstrates the decreasing powers of the civil services to make a difference in the Indian society. Now you have to understand that the author in particular talks about IAS officers when he talks about civil servants. And it is within that context that the author is saying that there is a recent trend of civil servants leaving their profession, especially for another profession such as politics, because they currently do not have the power to make a huge difference within the Indian society. And such officers consider that politics currently has the power that would give them the power to make a big difference within the Indian society. Now within this context, the author highlights on why civil services, especially IAS officer jobs, were highly demanded within the past. Whereby getting a job as an IAS officer enhanced the status of that person within the Indian society. And this became the first reason as to why a person was motivated to enter the IAS services. The second reason highlighted by the author is that entry into the civil services ensured gaining social respect through obtaining merit in the civil services examination. Wherein, as you already know, that the civil services examination is not just the toughest exam within India, it is one of the toughest exams in the world. And if a particular person is able to clear this exam, then that particular person gains social respect within the Indian society. And this became one of the main reasons as to why a person would want to join the Indian civil services. The third reason given by the author is that by becoming an IAS officer, it gave the authority to that person to exercise state power, especially within the field of law and order. The fourth reason given by the author is that by becoming an IAS officer or a civil servant, it gave the person an ability to participate in nation building and the development agenda of the Government of India. And the fifth and the main point which has been highlighted by the author as to why a particular person would want an entry into the civil services was that it gave the person power to do something for the larger good of the Indian society. And it is within that context that the author has said that most of the reason as to why a particular person wants to become an IAS officer or a civil servant still exist, but it is the fifth point, which is the power to do something for the larger good of the Indian society, has diminished over the years. And it is within that context that the author has highlighted as to why there is a recent trend of civil servants leaving their profession, whereby their power to do something for the larger good of the Indian society has decreased. Now the author has highlighted that earlier it was only the IAS officers and politicians, especially elected politicians, who were perceived as having the capacity to do something meaningful for the Indian society, whereby both of them had the authority to exercise state power, especially in law and order. They also had higher status within the Indian society, and both of these professions were able to gain social respect either through obtaining a seat within the civil services examination, and in the case of a politician, by winning an election, and thereby having the support of the people. However, what the author is trying to highlight now is that in the current scenario, it has been seen that only politicians are considered to have power to do something meaningful for the Indian society or for the larger good. And this, according to the author, is the main reason as to why there is a recent trend of civil servants leaving their profession and joining politics. And it is within this context that the author has highlighted the impact of this perception, whereby earlier there was a perception that professions such as of teaching, NGO work, among other, were considered as lacking the power to bring up major change within the Indian society. And therefore there was a lack of appreciation for different professions as being jobs of public importance. However, according to the author, what has happened now is that civil services, especially the post of an IAS officer, has been extended the same perception, whereby the position of an IAS officer is now being considered as being lacking the power to bring change within the Indian society, and therefore it might not be considered as a profession of public importance. And therefore, this is the main focus of this article, is that the recent trend of civil servants, especially IAS officers, leaving their profession for another profession, especially politics, since they assume that politics currently have the power to do something meaningful for the Indian society. And therefore, this recent trend of civil servants leaving their job has shown to the Indian society that IAS services is also not a profession whereby you can serve the larger good of the Indian society, and thereby should not be considered as a profession of public importance. Whereby, according to the author, professions such as politics, military officers currently have all the 5 aspects for which a person would be motivated to join these professions. However, the lack of power for an IAS officer or a civil servant to do something for the larger good of the Indian society has diminished its position as being a profession of public importance. So now hopefully you've understood as to what this article talks about, and therefore now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this opinion-based editorial from the editorial page on page 8. Now what this article highlights are various problems with the MGNREGA program. Now you should see this article first from the perspective of GS paper 2 within the section governance, and within the subsection important aspects of governance, transparency and accountability, and limitations of e-governance. Apart from this, you should also see this from GS paper 2 within the section social justice, and with regards to problems of performance of welfare schemes for the vulnerable section. And apart from this, you should also see this article from perspective of GS paper 3 within the section economic development, and within the subsection Indian economy and issues relating to employment. So now let us understand the various problems which have been highlighted by the author with regards to the MGNREGA program. Now with regards to the first problem, the author has highlighted that the MGNREGA scheme is a demand-driven program, wherein what happens under MGNREGA is that work must be provided within 15 days to a person which has demanded work. And if the government is not able to provide this person with work, then the central government must pay this particular person an unemployment allowance. But the author has highlighted a problem with this, whereby the work which has been demanded by laborers is not fed into the online system for the MGNREGA program. And thereby what is happening is that the data under which we would know as to how many people are demanding work under the MGNREGA program is not being properly provided. And therefore because of this, the government and the general public does not know how much funds should be provided under the unemployment allowance, and how many people or individuals within India require this unemployment allowance. Now with regards to the second problem, the author has highlighted the data on the work demanded by laborers under the MGNREGA program is only available on the online format, and therefore the author has highlighted that there is a lack of offline alternatives to capture the work demand data. Apart from this, the author has also highlighted that both the work demand data and the employment generated data are available at the panchayat level, whereby let's say if there are 2 particular people and both of them have gotten work under the MGNREGA program, then this data would be fed into the employment generated data. However, if both of these people are demanding work under the MGNREGA program, then this data would be fed into the work demand data. And what the author is highlighting is that both of these data are available at the panchayat level. However, what happens at the central level is that only the data for the employment generated is aggregated, whereby let's say all the panchayats across India would be sending their data for both work demand and employment generated. However, what the central government is doing is that it is collecting and giving proper representation to only the employment generated data and not to the work demand data. And therefore because of this, we're not able to know how many individuals or laborers are demanding work under the MGNREGA program. And therefore because of this, proper funds cannot be allocated under the unemployment allowance. The third problem with the MGNREGA program, which has been highlighted by the author, is that there is a lack of funds for the MGNREGA program, whereby what is happening is that the funds which are allocated for the MGNREGA program get exhausted before the completion of the financial year. Now what the author has highlighted, if let's say 5,000 crore has been allocated under the MGNREGA program, and this fund has to carry on till March of 2019, then what has happened is that 99% of this fund has already been used by the month of January. And apart from this, what is also happening is that majority of the state are continuously highlighting that there is a lack of fund under the MGNREGA program. And according to the author, what both of these aspects are showing is that funds are not being properly allocated based on the actual demand in the first stage itself. Now, according to the author, proper data is not being fed under the MGNREGA program, and therefore, because of this, there has been an under-provisioning of work, whereby we do not know as to how many people are demanding work under the MGNREGA program. And because of this, the funds which are required for the unemployment allowance is also not known. And according to the author, if the proper data is fed into the online system for the MGNREGA program, then we would know as to how much fund is required to be allocated in the first stage for the MGNREGA program. And now the fourth and the last problem which has been highlighted by the author with the MGNREGA program is of delay in the compensation given to workers under the MGNREGA program. Whereby under the MGNREGA program, it is a mandate that salary has to be paid within 15 days, or the laborers who have worked under the MGNREGA program would be entitled to a delay compensation. And this delay compensation are called stage 2 delays. So let's say if a particular person has made 200 rupees from the MGNREGA program, then this person should be paid these 200 rupees within 15 days. And if the central government delays this payment for just by 1 day, then for this 1 day, the central government has to pay a delay compensation to this particular person. However, what the author is highlighting is that even though this delay compensation data is fed into the system, it is intentionally being suppressed so as to avoid paying delay compensation. Whereby what is happening is fudging of data. So let's say a particular person has started working under the MGNREGA program on 1st of January, and therefore this person should be paid his salary under the MGNREGA program by the 15th of January. However, what is happening under the current system is that this person is being shown to have joined the work on 10th of January. And what this would do is delay the compensation that is required to be paid to this person under the provision of the stage 2 delays. Now these are the four main problems which have been highlighted by the author with regards to problems with the MGNREGA scheme. Whereby according to the author, there has been a lack of proper data which is leading to weak implementation of the MGNREGA scheme. And hopefully with these 4 points, you have understood the main focus of this editorial. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this opinion-based editorial from page 9. Now as you already might know, the Niti Aayog has recently released a report called Strategy for New India, whereby the Niti Aayog has highlighted the strategy that requires to be followed by the government to achieve what is being called as a New India by 2022, which is the 75th year of India's independence. Now within this Niti Aayog report for the strategy for 2022, it has also given a section with regards to sustainable environment. However, what the author is highlighting is that there are several issues which are missing from this Niti Aayog report with regards to the strategy on environmental issues. Now if you have not read this Niti Aayog report, then we would strongly recommend that you at least go through this report once so as to prepare for your mains examination for civil services exam. Whereby this Niti Aayog report has given summaries and briefings on various aspects that are required for proper growth of India by 2022. And it is within that aspect that this report focuses upon sustainable environment. However, this focus on sustainable environment is being overseen under the purview of infrastructure. Now we would not be looking into this report in depth, and what I'll do is provide you a link to this Niti Aayog report. And what you should actually do is go through the complete report, especially with regards to your upcoming mains examination. However, with regards to the aspect of sustainable environment, there are 5 key pillars which the Niti Aayog report has highlighted as being required for sustainable environment. The first being to limit the crop residue burning, such as of stubble burning. Second is to reduce air, water and noise pollution. Third is to have an effective solid waste management system in India. The fourth is to have a proper forest management system in India. And the fifth and the last key pillar is to undertake various measures for mitigation of climate change or tackling climate change. However, the report does go further in depth with regards to on how crop residue burning can be limited within India, on how reduction in air, water and noise pollution can be undertaken within India, and other detailed information for all the 5 key pillars. However, because of constraint of time, we will not be looking into all of these 5 key pillars. And what you can do is try to understand them by reading the Niti Aayog report. However, with regards to these key pillars for sustainable environment, the author in the editorial in the Hindu newspaper has highlighted as to various aspects where this report is lacking. Now you have to understand that this editorial in itself is little political in nature, whereby even though the author highlights various several aspects of environment which are currently lacking in the Niti Aayog report, but no form of solution is being provided within this editorial, wherein the author has said that arresting land degradation and soil erosion, water conservation, conservation of non-forest ecosystems, forming a dedicated entity for grassland, marine, coastal, wetland and mountain, and desert conservation is not there in the Niti Aayog report. Apart from this, tackling of increasing presence of toxic chemicals in India's water is also missing within the Niti Aayog report. In addition, the environmental damage which is caused from mining and forest loss which is caused from large river valley projects is also not being highlighted within the Niti Aayog report. Apart from this, the author has also highlighted that even though organic farming is a solution which has been given in the Niti Aayog report, but the report in itself does not state on how chemical fertilizers and pesticides would be phased out. Apart from this, one of the major problems which has been highlighted by the author with regards to environmental issues is that it does not give a plan on how the local communities, such as the Adivasis, the tribals, would be integrated on decisions on infrastructure projects in environmentally sensitive zones. And therefore, according to the author, these missing aspects in the Niti Aayog report on environmental issues shows that there is a lack of integrated and comprehensive view on how ecological issues or environmental issues can be addressed with regards to India's future planning and growth. Now this report has highlighted as to where the Niti Aayog report lacks, but what you should do with regards to your upcoming civil services examination is read this Niti Aayog report and understand the solutions which this Niti Aayog report has given, whereby what has been given in the Niti Aayog report is much more relevant with regards to your UPSC examination. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 2. Now what this article talks about is that the census of the Irrawaddy dolphin, which inhabit the Bhimantarak Wildlife Sanctuary and the Garimata Marine Sanctuary, has come to an end, and the census report of 2018 on the Irrawaddy dolphin would be published soon. Now what you need to understand from this article are various aspects about the Irrawaddy dolphin, and you need to understand these aspects from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination of 2019. Now in the Daily News Simplified video of 19th of January, we had already understood that most of the questions which are asked in the prelims examination on animals have mainly focused on 5 aspects. As to the listing of that animal in the IUCN list, the listing of that animal in any international protection convention, the habitat of that animal, the 4th aspect being the protection given to that animal under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. And the 5th and the last aspect which is asked about animals in prelims examination is its unique feature. And what we'll do is understand all of these 5 aspects about the Irrawaddy dolphin. Now the first aspect that we'll understand about the Irrawaddy dolphin is its habitat. Now as you can see from this map, it is mainly found within the Indo-Pacific region. And within this Indo-Pacific region, it is found in river deltas, estuaries, rivers within Southeast Asia, inland wetlands, and brackish lagoons. And what you can understand from this is the Irrawaddy dolphin is both a coastal and a river dolphin. Whereby if you take a look at this map, the red color region within Myanmar is the Irrawaddy River, and the Irrawaddy dolphin gets its name from the freshwater Irrawaddy River of Myanmar. Now with regards to the second aspect, the Irrawaddy dolphin is protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Now with regards to the IUCN list, the Irrawaddy dolphin is listed as being endangered. While with regards to the 4th aspect, Irrawaddy dolphin is listed in Appendix 1 of the CITES Convention. Now with regards to the 5th and the last aspect of unique feature, you have to understand that the Irrawaddy dolphin is different from the South Asian river dolphin, or what is most commonly known as the Ganga river dolphin. Now there are 2 South Asian river dolphin. First is the Indus river dolphin and second is the Ganga river dolphin. Whereby the Ganga river dolphin is the aquatic animal of India. Now with regards to its habitat, the Ganga dolphin is found in freshwater rivers and inland wetlands. While apart from this, the Ganga dolphin is protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Apart from this, the Ganga dolphin is also listed as endangered in the IUCN list, and in Appendix 1 of the CITES Convention. And therefore, one of the major differences between the Irrawaddy dolphin and the Ganga dolphin is that the Irrawaddy dolphin is found both in freshwater rivers and in brackish coastal regions, while the Ganga dolphin is found only in freshwater rivers and inland wetlands. And apart from this, what you should also understand is that the Indus River water dolphin is mainly found in Pakistan. However, apart from this, the Indus River water dolphin is also found in the Peace River within the Punjab region. However, with regards to this article, we're only focusing upon the Irrawaddy dolphin and the Ganga dolphin. And hopefully you've understood the difference between both of them. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken the data point from page 9. Now what this data point talks about is the Wholesale Price Index or the WPI. Now what this article has done is given various figures of the Wholesale Price Index. However, it is not required for you to remember all of these figures about the Wholesale Price Index because they continuously change. However, what is required for you to understand from this article is the various features of the Wholesale Price Index. Now the Wholesale Price Index measures the average change in the prices of commodities for bulk sale, and the Wholesale Price Index is measured at the level of early stages of transactions. Now you have to understand that this means that inflation is measured only at the wholesale level, and it does not measure inflation at the retail level. When you must have understood from an earlier explanation, the inflation at retail level is measured by the Consumer Price Index or CPI. Now the second aspect of Wholesale Price Index that you need to understand is of the WPI index basket, wherein the Wholesale Price Index covers commodities falling under three major groups, first being primary articles, second being fuel and power, and the third being manufactured product. Wherein in addition to this, you should remember that manufactured products have the highest weightage and the number of items while calculating Wholesale Price Index inflation. Wherein you have to understand that the prices for the major groups are tracked at the wholesale or the factory gate level, wherein let's say a particular manufactured good when leaving a factory gate cost about rupees 100. However, this product is sold in market at 120. However, under Wholesale Price Index inflation, the price that would be undertaken is the price of the product when it leaves the factory gate. The fourth aspect that you need to remember with regards to Wholesale Price Index is that WPI does not cover services. And apart from this, what else you need to remember with regards to Wholesale Price Index is that the base year for measuring WPI is 2011 and 12. Now the last aspect that you need to remember with regards to Wholesale Price Index is that it is a monthly data which is released by the Office of Economic Advisor under the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Now previously various questions have been asked in your prelims examination related to inflation, wherein the most recent question which was asked on inflation was asked in the prelims of 2015, which had asked which of the following brings out the Consumer Price Index number for industrial workers, where the correct answer to this question is C, the Labor Bureau. Now we have taken this article which is in an image form from page 14. Now what this article talks about is the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018. Now we'll try to understand this article in three different perspectives. First, we'll try to understand about the various aspects of the World Energy Outlook Report. And after that, we'll try to understand as to what have been the observations which have been made in this article from the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018. Now before understanding about the World Energy Outlook Report, we'll try to understand on how questions have been asked in the previous prelims examination on various reports and indexes. Wherein previously questions have been asked in your prelims examination as to which organization prepares which index. Wherein if you take a look at the prelims paper of 2018, a question was asked as to who prepares the Rule of Law Index, wherein the correct answer to this question is the World Justice Project. Wherein if you take an example of the prelims examination paper of 2017, a question was asked as to who prepares the Global Gender Gap Index report, wherein the correct answer to this question is A, World Economic Forum. And if in similar terms, if you take an example of the prelims examination paper of 2016, it had asked as to what are the indicators of the Global Hunger Index report, and the correct answer to this question is C, 1, 2 and 3. Similarly, it had asked as to who prepares the Ease of Doing Business Index, wherein the correct answer to this question is C, World Bank. And moreover, the 2016 paper had also asked as to who prepares the Global Financial Stability Report, wherein the correct answer to this question is B, International Monetary Fund or IMF. Now the first point about the World Energy Outlook Report that you need to know is that it is published by the International Energy Agency. And in the 2018 report, It details the various global energy trends which are to be expected by 2040, whereby the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018 takes into account the various global energy trends and tries to make out as to what would be the possible impact of these trends on supply and demand of energy, carbon emissions, air pollution, and energy access. Apart from this, an important aspect of the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018 is about the new policy scenario, whereby this report takes into account the current and future energy policies of several governments. And then what this report does is compare these current and future energy policies of government as to whether they would meet the sustainable development goals, limit the global temperature rise in line with the Paris Agreement, thirdly as to whether these policies would address air pollution, and the fourth and the last aspect as to whether these new policies by government would ensure universal access to energy. Now, these are the four main points that you needed to know about the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018, especially with regards to your upcoming prelims examination of 2019. Now, there are four main highlights of the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018, wherein the first highlight is of oil demand, whereby Europe and North America will see a decline in their oil demand, while it would increase for the developing countries. And this oil demand for the developing countries would be led by India itself. The second main highlight of the report is of production, whereby the shale revolution in the United States will enable the United States to become the world's largest producer of oil and gas by 2025. The third main highlight of this report is that there would be a shift in the energy mix, and the shift in the energy mix is being measured on a world scale, whereby by 2030 natural gas would overtake coal to become the second largest fuel in the global energy mix. Now, you also have to understand that India is also trying to form a natural gas led energy mix for India. Now, the fourth and the last point highlighted by the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018 is that there would be a greater thrust on renewable energy, whereby it is being said that by 2040, the share of renewable energy would increase to 40% of the global energy production. Now, these are the four main highlights of the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018. However, you have to understand that these highlights are speculative in nature. And what is more important for you to remember with regards to your civil services examination is about the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018, especially with regards to your upcoming prelims examination of 2019. So now hopefully you've understood both the aspects, first being the features of the World Energy Outlook Report of 2018, and secondly, the important highlights of this report. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 11. Now the focus of this article is quite small. Now what has recently happened is that the Ministry of Home Affairs has released a notification whereby it has allowed Aadhar cards as valid travel documents for Indians under the age of 15 and over the age of 65 for traveling to Nepal and Bhutan. Now what used to happen earlier is that if someone wanted to go to Nepal or Bhutan, and if they were Indian citizens but below the age of 15 or above the age of 65, they could use their PAN card, driving license, CGS card or ration card as a valid identity proof. And what the government of India has done now is that it has allowed Aadhar card to be used by individuals who are under the age of 15 or over the age of 65 as a valid identity card. And this was the only small aspect that you needed to know from this article, which had been taken in Daily News Headlines or DNH. And therefore now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 4. Now what this article talks about is Maharashtra government is running a pilot project within Nagpur so as to fight elephantiasis. Now you should see this article first from the perspective of prelims within the section Current Events of National Importance within the section General Science. Apart from this, you should also see this from the perspective of GS Paper 2 within the section Issues relating to development and management of social sector services relating to health. Now the first point that you need to know is that lymphatic filariasis and this impairment can lead to abnormal enlargement of body parts. Apart from this, it also causes pain and severe disability to the person who has been infected with this problem. The second point that you need to know is that the infection for lymphatic filariasis occurs when filarial parasites are transmitted to humans through mosquitoes, whereby what generally happens is that this infection is usually acquired in the childhood and it continues to cause hidden damage to the lymphatic system. And the point that this disease is caused through mosquitoes is an important point that you need to remember for your prelims examination. Now this lymphatic filariasis infection leads to tissue swelling elephantiasis, which is the skin or tissue thickening, and scrotal swelling. And all of these problems occur later in life, and these problems can lead to a permanent disability. The fourth point that you need to know is that preventive chemotherapy is then required to stop the spread of infection of lymphatic filariasis. The fifth point that you need to know is that this infection is caused with parasites which are classified as nematodes, which is a form of roundworms. Now, the sixth and the main aspect that you need to understand from this news is of the current prevention method which has been undertaken by Maharashtra, whereby it is implementing a pilot project in Nagpur based on a recommendation of the World Health Organization. Now, the World Health Organization has recommended a triple drug therapy for the elimination of lymphatic filariasis, whereby what is currently happening is that Maharashtra currently has a two-drug regimen consisting of two different chemicals. And what is happening now is that based on the recommendation of the World Health Organization, a new form of chemical is being added to the already existing two-drug regimen, whereby this triple drug therapy would then be distributed in endemic areas such as in Nagpur through a mass drug administration exercise. Now, these are the six main points that you needed to know about lymphatic filariasis and the particular disease that this article talks about called elephantiasis. And therefore, now with this, let us move on to the next section. Now, there are two questions for your practice, and what you need to do is pause this video, solve both of these questions, and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now, with regards to question number 1, the correct answer is D, 1, 2, and 3, whereby all the three statements are correct, whereby the resource transfer from the center to state is based on the demand for employment which has been provided by each state. With regards to the second statement, the MGNREGA Act does provide a legal guarantee for wage employment by providing allowances in case of failure to provide work on demand. While with regards to statement number 3, the plans and decisions that are undertaken under the MGNREGA program is provided by the Gram Sabha. And therefore statement 1, 2 and 3 are all correct. Now with regards to question number 2, as you already understand that the World Energy Outlook report of 2018 was given out by the International Energy Agency. And therefore the correct answer for question number 2 is D. Now there are two more questions for your practice, and as you already understand, pause this video, solve both of these questions, and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now with regards to question number 3, the correct answer is C, 1 and 3, whereby the weightage to food articles is higher in consumer price index, and therefore statement number 2 is wrong. And as you already understand, statement number 1 and 3 are both correct. Now with regards to question number 4, the correct answer is A, 1 only, whereby the Irrawaddy dolphin is provided the same protection as the Ganga dolphin under the Wildlife Protection Act, whereby both of them are protected under Schedule 1. While statement number 2 is wrong, whereby Irrawaddy dolphin can also survive in brackish waters. And therefore only statement number 1 is correct, and the correct answer for question number 4 therefore is A. And now with this we come to an end in the analysis of today's newspaper. Now we move on to the question for today.